So if you've been around the world of addiction and recovery, you know the story. It's a painful one. Someone goes to treatment, they seem to do all the right things, they come out with so much hope, and then they relapse. We usually say, well, recovery is hard, setbacks happen. And that's true. But what if that's not the whole story? Today, we're going to look at a totally different angle, inspired by the work of Jimmie Applegate, who asks a really tough question. What if the system itself is designed to fail?
Okay, let's just pause on that for a second. This quote right here is the entire reason we're doing this explainer. The idea is that when relapse happens, our first instinct is to look at the person's willpower or commitment. But this perspective says, no, look at the design of the treatment they just went through. It flips the script entirely from blaming the individual to examining the system.
So that's the big question we're tackling today. Is it the person or the program? In this explainer, we're going to follow the evidence laid out in the source material and kind of play detective to see if we can find the hidden cracks in the system that make relapse not just a possibility, but almost a predictable outcome.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to explore why just being sober isn't the same as being healed. Then, we'll dive into the massive role of trauma that often gets overlooked. After that, we'll talk about the difference between just following rules and having real personal agency. And finally, we'll ask, what would a better system even look like?
Okay, first stop, and this is a big one, is the critique of this very common idea that if someone isn't using a substance, they must be getting better. The source material argues pretty strongly that this is a huge and actually dangerous misunderstanding.
Now this slide really tells the story. On the left, you've got the things that many programs measure, right? How many days have you been sober? Did you get your certificate of completion? Did you follow our rules? But then look at the right. This is what psychology says real, lasting recovery actually needs. The brain has to stabilize, you have to learn how to regulate your emotions, you have to deal with trauma. These two lists, they're not even speaking the same language.
And this timeline just lays the problem bare. A standard treatment program is what, 30 days? Maybe 90 if you're lucky? But the actual science tells us it takes at least 6 months for the brain's core systems to even begin to steady themselves, and over a year to make real gains in things like impulse control and good decision-making. We're sending people back into the world long before their brains have even had a fighting chance to heal.
And here's the bottom line. You just can't put trauma on a schedule. The deep psychological wounds that so often fuel addiction, they don't just magically disappear when a 30-day clock runs out. Expecting them to is, frankly, just setting people up for a really painful fall.
And this is where the real psychological harm kicks in. When someone relapses after they were told they were ready, they don't blame the program for letting them out too soon. They blame themselves. And going through that cycle again and again creates this toxic brew of shame, hopelessness, and something called learned helplessness. That's the devastating belief that you are simply incapable of changing, and it becomes a massive wall to any future recovery.
So that leads us straight to our second big clue in this investigation. And honestly, this one's a game changer. It's the way that so many treatment models consistently fail to really truly deal with trauma as a core driver of addiction.
Just look at this data. It's wild. Study after study shows that a huge majority, we're talking up to 75% of people with substance use disorders, have serious histories of trauma. So let's be super clear. This isn't some niche side issue. For most people, trauma isn't just part of their story, it is the story.
And that forces us to completely reframe what's happening. For a lot of these folks, using a substance isn't really about chasing pleasure. It's about self-medication. It's about trying to calm a nervous system that's been stuck in overdrive, sometimes for years. The substance becomes a tool, a destructive one for sure, but a tool to just manage the internal chaos.
So think about what a program that doesn't get this actually does. Step 1, they take away the person's main coping mechanism. Step 2, they don't teach them any new, healthy ways to manage that underlying chaos. So what happens? The person gets completely overwhelmed. And then, and this is the kicker, that emotional overwhelm gets labeled by the program as resistance or not being willing.
When you see it through that lens, relapse isn't a mystery at all, is it? It's not some moral failing. It's a completely predictable, almost biological attempt to find some kind of stability when no other options have been given.
This takes us right to the third major flaw, the actual culture inside a lot of these treatment centers. It's a culture that often values just following the rules, compliance, way more than it values building up a person's ability to take charge of their own life, which is agency.
And look at the contrast here, it's night and day. The compliance model is all about authority. You sit down, you listen, you do as you're told. If you ask too many questions, you might get labeled as being in denial. But an agency-based model is the opposite. It wants you to be curious, to participate, because it knows that for recovery to last, you have to be in the driver's seat.
And look, this isn't just some nice, progressive idea. This is fundamental psychology. We know from tons of research that for any hard, long-term change to stick, a person has to feel a sense of ownership, of autonomy. So a system that makes people feel powerless can actually, paradoxically, make it even harder for them to build the internal strength they desperately need.
Okay, so we've torn apart the old model. We've looked at the time mismatch, the ignored trauma, this culture of compliance. So where does that leave us? Well, the good news is the source material doesn't just complain. It points the way to a new kind of system, one built on what we actually know about the brain and psychology.
So, what does a better system look like? Well, first off, how long you stay is based on your clinical progress, not just some arbitrary 30-day insurance cutoff. Trauma care isn't an elective, it's baked into everything they do. They work with the whole family system. They actually teach you about the science of your own brain. And above all, they create an environment that treats you with dignity and fosters your own sense of agency.
And that brings us right back to the biggest takeaway of all. If you have a system where large numbers of people are failing in the same way over and over again, that is a signal. It's a flashing red light telling you to stop looking for what's wrong with the people and start looking for what's wrong with the system itself.
So we're going to leave you with this final, really challenging question. Given everything we now know about the brain, about trauma, about what it actually takes for a human being to make a profound change, why are we still defending approaches that fall so short? It's a question not just for the industry, but for all of us. When do we finally start demanding something better?